Hi, welcome to Fast Monty's Garage. Today I want to talk about how to mask for spray painting. Now I don't care what you're using to spray paint with. It can be a high velocity gun, rattle can, it doesn't matter. The principles are going to be the same for any type of masking for spray paint. I also don't care what you're masking, like your house or your inside your house, your windows, or your bicycle or your car, or the interior garage, or your car parts. It doesn't matter. Masking is going to be the same. So we're going to talk about several things today. Hard lines when you mask, soft lines, back taping, and just different tips and tricks that I use when I painted my car. Actually, when I paint stuff in the house, I actually use the same principles. And today I happen to be in the middle of a rebuild of my engine for my GTO. And a couple of the components on the engine I need to paint. And this one in particular, the timing chain cover, needs all the different masking techniques. So I have to cover a large area with, we'll use a soft line around that. We'll use a hard line around this gasketed area, and we can make up our minds on the back. But it will cover all the principles you need for your project. So I hope you like what you see today. Subscribe if you like it. Subscribe if you like cars, because that's all I'm going to talk about from here on out. So when I come back, I'm going to show you the inventory you need. All right, team. So first things first. Masking requires masking tape. Duh. Now, I have 3 different types of masking tape. I have 2-inch, 1.5, 3/4. Now you notice there's a different color change here. This is the lowest cost version, and there's a reason for that. It sticks to anything, and if you leave it on too long, it's permanent. I do not recommend this tape unless you plan to put it on something that you're taking off. Like if you're masking a giant area and you tear a hole in your paper and you want to cover that hole, use this. It's cheap. You don't have to take it back off. Do whatever you want with it. The blue tape is probably the most common of most painters, especially house painting. It leaves a pretty good edge if you want to paint a hard edge. But my favorite by far is green, but it's also the most expensive. It has great tack, and you can also take it off of whatever part you're masking and will not leave a residue. So this is my favorite. It's also the most expensive, like I talked about. So the other things you're going to need: an X-Acto knife or a razor blade, and your choice of coverage material. So this is butcher paper. You can use this to cover, big areas. But by far, my favorite is something called Easy Sheet. I'll show you that in a second here. Here is a piece of Easy Sheet. Notice this company name? This is well known in the automotive world for masking and sandpapers. So they know what they're talking about when it comes to spray painting. This is super thin material. It comes in a roll that can be 12 feet wide or up to 20 feet wide. The roll is 400 feet long. It's awesome. And it's only like $40 to $50 for that roll, and I use it for everything. I used it to mask the inside of my garage when I painted the car. And as you can see, paint likes to stick to this. So all your overspray is going to stick to it. It is awesome to work with. So let's get started on masking our part. Let's talk about taping technique. We have a couple different principles. We have how to create a hard edge, a soft edge, and what is the purpose of each. We can also talk about back taping. So if I have an area here, you guys can see this flat surface is a gasketed surface. I don't want paint on it. I don't want paint in here. I have to paint this surface, and I have to paint this surface. So for this edge, this is a really easy principle from here to here, and I'll explain why. So this is called back taping. So in the automotive world, if I don't want this edge painted, I can just tape it. Now the reason it's called back taping is because if I'm painting from this direction, check that out. That paint's going to get where I want it, and it's not going to get where I don't want it. The problem is, if I continue that back taping over here, like that, that's fine and dandy. I have that surface covered, but how am I going to paint in here? How am I going to get there? I can't. So we're going to do what's called a soft edge on that point. This is where my green tape comes into play, where I'm going to lay it down and I'm going to fold it over. And I'm just going to go right along the edge, and you can pull on the tape, you can manipulate it, you can make it turn. This is why the 3/4 inch tape is awesome. And that makes it super easy, because that little seam allows a little bit of paint to get in there. So let me show you what I mean. Here's some footage from when I painted the heads of the car, and I used what's called a hard line. So it's I used the blue tape, I used my razor blade to trace the gasket, and then I peeled off the tape, and you can see the hard line it left. That hard line is fine because it goes right up against the gasket. Another way hard lines are used are when you're doing a lettering or really fine line painting in the automotive world. You typically want to use a vinyl tape, and vinyl tape is awesome because it does not allow any bleeding. So that's a whole nother topic. But today I want to show you these techniques and what I would do to mask this part. I went ahead and back taped this whole top portion of the flange, because when I actually spray paint this, it's very easy to spray paint in here until you get to this point. Because how do you get into this space with your paint if this is covered, right? So I'm going to use my X-Acto knife and cut to this boss, and I can put a little crease in the tape so I can see my line, and I'm going to cut it out like that. I did the same thing for this boss, and you could quite literally back tape this whole thing and cut it out, but I'm trying to save some time here, and I'll show you why. So I already did this boss, I did this boss here. I'm just going to finish this one up. I'm going to use our back taping principle of manipulating the tape, fold it in half, the green tape, and I'm going to go all the way around. And I'll probably fast forward this, but you'll see why. So I'm getting as close as I can to the edge I want covered, but leaving a tiny bit of space. Okay, so there you have it. That's back tape, basically folded tape all the way around. And now, get a piece of our easy sheet. I'm going to put it right on the sticky side that's facing towards us. The reason I like easy sheet so much is it sticks to tape, and tape sticks to it really easy, but you can also see through it, so you can see if you've missed any portions or whatnot. Then you can take your blade and just score it all the way around. When you get to the point that you actually have bare metal to your tape, you want to gently score the plastic on top of the tape. So I'm just going along the top of the tape. When we take it off, just like that. Now we're adequately shielding this area from being painted. We can now spray You want to pay particular attention to any overlap of tape on the surface, because if it's a visible surface like this is the top of the engine, I don't want it to accidentally fold over and then we got to repaint, right? We have this masked, and that's available to shoot. Alright, so the other side of the timing cover also has a unique challenge, because we have surfaces that we have to paint here, surfaces we don't want paint on because that's gasketed. So I think I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go ahead and back tape it with the blue tape. I'm going to run a crease on the tape so I can see my edge, and I'm going to cut it out. So I'm going to fast forward to that, but you can see me do that whole process. Alright, so that's down. Now we can put our easy sheet on, just like we did on the other side. So I purposely left this gap on the edge because, like I said, after I paint, I'm going to come back with a razor blade and scrape that paint off that edge while it's still tacky. So here's another trick I like to do. When I have a surface that requires a gasket like this, I'll just put it right on the tape, line up the holes, trace around it, see how much gasket material versus flange material is there, and then I'll cut it out, and it'll be a perfect fit. And there we have it. So we're going to have a few things left to mask here. We have this bore, which holds the front main seal. I want that masked because I don't want paint on there, because you have to press fit the seal. And then I want to mask these hose barbs, because you don't want paint in between the hose and the metal, because the paint can actually loosen or disintegrate with the fluid and create a leak. So I'm going to tape those ends as well. There we go. So for this, I'm going to back tape with my green tape. So I have a piece of my easy sheet. I'm just going to push in there. I'm just going to fold it in to the middle. And tape it in there. And there we have it. We're all masked. Final step is a final degrease. You want to get all your fingerprints off of there, and you can prime it, shoot it, take the masking off, scrape our edges. Good to go. Right out of the paint booth, so to speak. I'm just kidding, I don't have a paint booth. I wanted to show you guys what the results are. So this is after primer and color. And we'll go ahead and take off. Paint's still wet, actually. Well, not cured. It's been about 10 minutes. And this is when you want to take your masking off. So you can see right here, this is what we call the soft edge that we left from the folded over tape, and this is the hard edge from the blue tape. And we'll take this off. So there we have it. Mission successful. We went over hard lines, soft lines, and back taping, and using Easy Sheet. And there's the box of Easy Sheet down there. It's only 3 feet long, but well worth it. Subscribe if you haven't, and we'll see you next time.